We're thinking about the skill of being visionary. That is our number 6 skill, and we're going to explain why.
Research shows that 85% of CEOs say that one of the most desirable things that they need, the most critical things they need in leadership is vision.
But you might be missing, there will be people in your organisation that if you actually tap into, they will explode with energy.
Yeah.
It's such a different energy. Your creativity, your visionary skill is being closed down and shut down. All you're doing is seeing a snake in the grass or a tiger on the landscapes. It really, really is AI proof. It's not that AI would give it a go, maybe. It would more likely give you data and analysis. And so we've got more and more data and less vision.
Yeah.
We've got more and more content and fewer ideas. And more noise and less sort of direction. And that is something that we uniquely
do.
have. And I just think that is really worth getting excited about.
Hello, my name's Philippa Waller.
My name is Penelope Waller, and we are 2 of the directors at 4D Human Being.
And welcome to the 4D Human Being podcast. What's it all about, Pen?
It's all about your personal and professional relationships. It's about your communication skills, how you lead, how you work and build teams, how you are looking after yourself and your well-being, and how you are much more at choice. What do we mean by that?
Well, sometimes we can get a little caught in patterns in life and we can all be a little bit on our automatic pilot. So 4D Human Being is all about helping us get back to choice and being a 4-dimensional human being. And your 4th dimension, of course,
is intention. So whether it's about your impact, your leadership style, your team dynamics, whether it's about your well-being, whether it's about your communication or your presentation skills, anything that involves human beings interacting with other human beings, 4D Human Being are here to help.
we're going to take a deep dive and look at some tools, insights, theories that are going to help you go from a 3D human doing to a 4D human being so that you can happen to the world rather than the world simply happening to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
We're looking very summery today, aren't we?
Yes, well, it's summery.
I've gone full Miami Vice with rolled up jacket sleeves.
Now, that's a reference that will divide our listeners.
Well, depending on age and also where you live. But I saw on Instagram the other day a short clip of Don Johnson in the last episode ever of Miami Vice. And the phrase on the Instagram post was, "Is there anything cooler in the world than this and this man?" And I don't think there is, Phil.
No.
So I'm emulating it today with my Miami Vice rolled up sleeves look.
Everything comes around in the end, doesn't it? And, you know, I'm going to do a
It
simple
might be
segue.
a bit.
You might be a bit hot, but you'll be cool, supposedly. / retro. / who would have known in the 1980s that in 2026 we'd be sitting here saying, I'm going full Miami Vice and that's cool. And that is about imagining the future. Super segue me up. Right, nice there, Laura. So today we are on skill 6 of
It's the
6 skills for 2026.
End of the series, Phil.
It's the end of this particular road, but not the end.
There's more roads ahead, Phil. Another super segue.
Endless roads, because the future will keep coming, and whether you imagine it or not, it's coming. So
Well,
let's get involved.
Absolutely. Well, and that is probably at the absolute crux of what we're going to talk about, which is the future is coming. You can either let the future happen to you, or you can take a part, big or small, in creating what that future's going to be.
Makes me think of Maggie Smith in Downton again. But like one of the last lines, excuse my throat, I must have a little illness.
Summer cold.
Summer cold. Although maybe it's quite.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
What's
no.
her name? Marietta Fostrop? Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not.
She's the sexiest woman in Britain.
Well, only because of her voice. Not only because of her voice, but because of her voice. But yeah, I won't put myself in that category. towards the end, I think the Penelope Wilton character says to Maggie Smith, well, the future's coming sort of thing. It's our only choice, really, to go forward into the future. And Maggie Smith says, if only it were sort of thing, if only we had the option to go backwards. But of course,
We do not.
We do not. We are moving forwards. And here is a question for you. We're thinking about the skill of being visionary. That is our number 6 skill. And we're going to explain why.
Yep.
When did you last genuinely imagine the future? Not try and predict it, not try and guess what someone else might do, but imagine a possibility of what it could be. When did you last take the space and think, I wonder if?
I do this quite a lot in terms of short term, it's like a
very good point.
like a 6 month
Yeah.
time frame.
Yes.
I spend quite a lot of time there. In fact, we've spoken about this before in terms of sort of Philip Zimbardo's sort of time frames of where we tend to spend our time and our thinking. So do we spend a lot of time thinking about the past? Do we spend time in sort of thinking about now, the present, or do we spend a lot of time thinking about the future? And I do definitely spend more time in the future than I do in the past.
Yes.
Definitely a habit that I have, which is not good or bad, because we can also learn from the past, but probably quite a short time frame,
Yeah.
interestingly.
Yeah. Which is, of course, more predictable.
Yes.
In many ways, more controllable. And often, as we'll talk about, you get rewarded for that more.
Yeah.
In those short-term timescales.
Yeah.
So when we think about imagining what's possible, this is not react. This is not scroll through it online. This is not react to someone else's version of it. This is not react to someone else's version of it. It's actually imagining it completely differently, ahead of what's happening now, being able to describe it and being able to invite people into it, into the possibility of it, into the creation.
Well,
of it.
we'll talk very practically in this podcast about why being visionary, having vision, communicating vision is very, very important to us in the world of business, very important in terms of motivation, employee engagement, productivity, future-proofing your company, all those kind of good things. But I've really been thinking about this also at a kind of existential level. I know we've mentioned Joe Dispenza a lot on this podcast, and he has the lovely phrase, the best way to predict your future is to create it. But at a real sort of existential level, which we won't necessarily get into on this podcast, the future and the world we have doesn't just magically happen, or B, unfold by chance. Like, everything that you can see and touch and that exists in the world has at some point been conceived of, dreamt of, and visioned by somebody. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here.
100%.
And so to underestimate and undervalue the power of what we vision, what we manifest, is really doing ourselves a disservice, and it's also leaving others to shape the future.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard a really interesting conversation, didn't we, about AI and how it's unfolding. And where do you sit on that continuum of, well, it's just happening and it will unfold as it unfolds versus we could shape it?
That's right. Exactly that. And this isn't about bulldozing your vision through the world against the tide.
Yeah.
This is a massive sort of systemic co-creation, and your part in it, is to envision what might be possible for your family, for your community, for your business. So what's interesting about this in terms of why is this a really useful skill now? Well, because I think one of the main things is because AI and tech are really, really good at giving us analysis and data based on what's happened. I mean, I know we keep saying it every week. We say, oh, this is my favourite one, or this is the most important one.
I think for you, Phil, this is very important.
This for me is definitely very key and definitely a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And the reason, as I was preparing this podcast, I felt so excited about it was partly because of that, because it's something that I love, but also because it really, really is AI proof. It's not that AI couldn't give you sort of, I guess you could sort of say or imagine the future. I guess it would give it a go maybe, but based on, it would more likely give you data and analysis, and it hasn't got all the connection, meaning, relationships. It can't see and feel those customers and those employees. It can't be in the world, talking about existentially, and imagine, what could this be like? What could this feel like? And so we've got more and more data and less vision.
Yeah.
We've got more and more content and fewer ideas, and more noise and less sort of direction. And that is something that we uniquely
do.
have. And I just think that is really worth getting excited about.
And particularly because whether we like it or not as human beings, we're not really primarily data driven. I mean, we respond to data, we analyze data, we use data, but we've always been driven by story. And vision is a future story, a future idea of what things will look like. So it's really thinking about what motivates us as well. And it's not just going to be the data. So we've got to get good. We've got to get good at telling stories. And for me, visioning is like laying the bricks in the path ahead of you.
Yes.
So that people can step onto them.
Absolutely.
So it's story, but it's future story that people can hold on to see what might be possible, to see a reality.
Yeah. So let me and that and break that into 3 clear pillars that visioning sits on. So that, because otherwise, I think being a visionary leader has the danger of somebody going, "Oh, that sounds a bit worry. Sounds a bit worry. I don't know what that is." The first pillar is absolutely that space to imagine, to dream, to conceive of an idea, to that expansive thinking, which is what we often think about with the word visionary.
Which we all do. I mean, you can't help doing it when you're sleeping.
We all did it as kids. It's
Yeah.
something we've unlearned. We can easily
Yeah.
relearn it. It's about space, and we're going to come to that. The second pillar is planning, and this is the part that actually I think a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, no, that,
I can do that."
That bit," because we've been rewarded a lot for that, which is that strategy. It's those steps. It's like
It's your Excel spreadsheet.
It's your Excel spreadsheet. It's what actually needs to happen, and we're also going to give you some really good tips on that. Slightly invert your thinking on planning, so that you're always leading from the vision as opposed to what do we need to do tomorrow. And then the third pillar is the communication. And my goodness, just think about any leader really that you know at the moment, business, community, global, political, and have a think about how they communicate the vision of the world or your country or your community that they, or business that they believe in or would want to see.
And how that makes you feel.
And how that makes you feel. Exactly that. Now, it's not that there aren't leaders out there communicating vision. Which ones are communicating a vision to you that make you go, A, yes, that feels exciting. B, yes, I want to be part of that and I want to help build it. That is the gold.
Yeah.
So Pen, give us some of the stats on
some
why this topic and why now.
So we know that lots of employers, lots of CEOs, lots of board members, lots of very senior people in business, we know what they are talking about in terms of critical skills that they want to see. And research shows that 85% of CEOs say that one of the most desirable things that they need, the most critical things they need in leadership is visionary thinking. Companies are 7 times more likely to outperform other companies if there is a clear and articulated vision. It's absolutely huge. And I mean, if we think about politics at the moment, I know we've referenced politics quite a lot recently in the UK on this podcast, but Philippa and I are quite intrigued by it, not only from a sort of policy and political standpoint, but from a sort of human being point of view and how people are behaving.
And the comms.
Yeah, and the comms.
Comms.
And of course, one of the biggest criticisms of our current government is a lack of vision
and story.
Yeah, and you can really feel like that. You know, we dive into some of the stories behind the headlines, and actually, there's some really, really positive news, some really good achievements,
there's some amazing stats
in terms of what this government have achieved, and yet we are not hearing the vision, and that's the thing that people are complaining about.
100%. It's so interesting, isn't it? If you're sitting there, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, yeah, you know, blah blah blah, let's just get the doing done.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I think what we're experiencing now, and I'm sure there are other countries and other businesses and communities, and we know with businesses when people feel lost and don't know really what we're doing or why we're here or who we're following. The UK is a very good example at the moment of the absolute necessity of getting everybody behind a shared vision. That's why there is more division, and that's why people are dissatisfied. Exactly as you say, things are happening. We just don't hear it or feel it because it's not connected to the vision and the story.
Which, we are meaning makers as human
We're not moved
beings.
by the stats.
Yeah, we're meaning makers. We look for leadership. We want to follow and
believe.
believe in something. Yeah, 100%. So that's really, really important. 40% of employees, I think this stat must be higher in reality, Phil. 40% of employees claim that they don't really know how their job connects to the vision of the company, which tells us a lot in terms of A, how roles are being defined, B, how things are being sort of prioritized and focused, but C, definitely tells us a lot about the communication and the ownership of the vision, that people can understand it and own it.
I would imagine that is higher.
I
would imagine the reason it's that number is quite a few people would say, I know my company values.
Yeah.
So I'll put, yes, I am connected to but actually that's not the end of the story.
No, totally.
Yeah.
And then the last stat I'll give you today is that the number one capability for future leaders that companies say they want to develop and that future leaders want to develop is the ability to think and communicate more strategically. And I hear this time and time again. I cannot tell you how many times I hear when I'm working with executive leaders who are looking for that next big leap up to board or board -1. I think nearly 100% of them will have had the piece of feedback: you need to be thinking, communicating more strategically.
Ditto.
And I hear it again and again and again.
Ditto with my clients, Payne. Ditto. And unfortunately, you end up getting very busy with the day-to-day, and that goes by the wayside. You hit the ceiling and you don't get the promotion.
And to be fair, like we say many, many times, of course, we get rewarded for a big chunk of our career for delivering, executing and implementing. Brilliant. And then suddenly overnight, you've suddenly got to be communicating strategically.
This requires a lot more intention for your fourth dimension, your intentional dimension, and it requires courage. So AI cannot care about the future. You can. People are moved. AI cannot be moved by a possibility.
Do you know, it's
in the way that we can.
It's so funny, Phil, because of course I told you, didn't I, that I had a conversation with AI about the future. It was about the war with Ukraine and Russia. And I call him because he's Claude, what would happen? And he gave me an answer. And then I said, what if I was a Russian? And he gave me a completely different answer. So it's just trying to guess what might happen and what I want.
Yeah.
It's not really able to think in a visionary way. What if? It hasn't got that capacity.
Yes, and of course what we really need is the synthesizer, integrator visionary that could integrate a vision for all of those people to move forward into the future, like the Northern Ireland, conflict and that resolution.
And really what it gave me was a list of kind of stats and facts, and then so therefore this might happen. And that's not really what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about. Do you know what? It's making me think as I sort of look at this, vision is not information, it's meaning. And there's something about, if you're a leader in an organisation, this makes me think of the two of us. And it's not black and white, but you might be missing people in your organisation who are actually much more fired up by possibility than by plans or things that are actually happening. They'll be there. It's just that a lot of them will have adapted
100%
to
I need to be more like
I need to be more like that, and I get rewarded for that, and I will be not that I'll pretend to be as pleased, but I've got used to being energized by, we got that deal done. And I'll join in the celebration of that. But there will be people in your organisation that if you actually tap into, if you give them the space, give them a day or half a day, get them together, go into a room and think about what's possible to do, they will explode with energy. It's such a different energy. So you've got that energy there. It's about tapping into it. So the leaders who drive the next decade, ladies and gentlemen and everybody, will not be those with the most data. That's covered. We've got that covered, I'm afraid. They will be those who can look further, imagine more boldly, and bring others with them. And those are the three pieces, aren't they? They're that imagining, that planning, taking people with you and storing it. So we're going to look at, what do we mean by visionary leadership? It's not just a gift or a kind of, something you just inherit. It's something you can learn. Why it's important, which we've already started to touch on, and then really how you can do it. We're going to give you really practical ways that if you think you're sort of left brain planner, give me an Excel spreadsheet, you've got all that information. If you let your brain make different connections, boy.
Yeah. And I've got a real favourite one in there. So.
Okay, very good. So what do we really mean by it? Visionary. Being visionary is being able to look beyond the current situation. It's really being able to imagine what else might be possible. You know, some of us might think about movies that we love, you know, Minority Report or Back to the Future for those of us who are a bit older, you know, any number of movies.
I was ahead of its time, Phil.
Yeah, ahead of its time. You're saying we're not quite on hoverboard yet, although I don't suppose we're far off. It's being able to describe it, picture it, describe it, connect others to it and motivate them into action. Now, you'll all be doing this in small ways. All of us will be in some ways visioning and in some ways influencing and taking other people with us. If you think about family members, if you want to take your kids or your partner or friends or whatever to a certain event, and maybe one or two of them are less reluctant, you are already going to be trying to picture it for them and describe it to them in a way that will try to get them excited. Like, it's not that we're not doing this. So it's about expanding that skill set that we have.
Yes.
And, you know, we always talk about it, don't we? Thinking bigger.
Yeah.
This is not about some unknown skill set that we never use. We are doing it. You know, we're having a conversation with a friend or a partner or a relative about the holiday we might go on together, and we've got different ideas. We are at some point, each of us, going to picture and imagine the holiday that we want, describe it to the other person and convince them that they want to.
And this is a really good example, Phil, because if I think about that in terms of my kids, I don't know that they're going to have a good time at this event, but I will paint a picture so that they feel like, oh, okay, well, that's something I feel I could do and I'll step into it. Now, if it doesn't turn out how we wanted it, we'll dissect that at the time and thereafter. But I sort of know I'm painting a picture that I cannot guarantee is true, but I do it anyway because in my mind I'm thinking, I think either it could work out like this, or they'll learn something, or it's worth giving it a shot, or whatever it might be. But you're right, you paint something that you know
isn't quite going to look like that.
Isn't quite going to look like that, and you certainly can't guarantee it.
Absolutely.
But you're doing it with the best intention to help people take that next step on the path. It's so right.
It's like anything. It's like having your garden done or having a renovation on your house, isn't it? None of us would start it. Life is never, ever going to look like we plan it.
No.
We have to build the idea of it and motivate people to follow us into it.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker, so that it's even more than that potentially.
Yeah.
Because once other people come in and go, oh, hold on a minute, this room could look like this. Why don't we add in? You hadn't even thought of
that's
that.
Right.
So it's not that you're building some fantasy and manipulating them, because actually it's always going to be less than that. You've no idea.
Yeah.
Yes, it will look different in some ways, but we have to start with that plan.
So that there'll be another step on the path. Somebody might add something to it. You might take it in a direction, but
don't assume it's going to look worse. It could be even better.
100%.
You know.
And what's really interesting also about that, if I think about it, is that I think for some of us in the workplace, not all of us, but some of us in the workplace, it can be quite difficult to take ownership of that vision, whether we have the autonomy to create any vision we want or whether we have a certain company vision that we need to take on and adapt and communicate. But if I think about that in my personal life, I just do it automatically. I'm just
That's right.
I'm just moving my kids forward step by step into something.
That's right.
And it shifts and moves as we go along. And I think for some of us in the workplace, we can tend to think, well, that's not really my responsibility.
Yeah,
It's somebody else's.
That's really lovely, Pam. I want to tell a story about this. So Joseph Bazalgette.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a
I
great
love
name?
that name.
I mean, he sounds like Roger Ramjet.
It sounds like something out of a sort of a 1940s war movie, doesn't it?
Yes, so it's a few years before that. So this is the Victorian era in London. And by the time we...
Bazalgette.
Bazalgette. But actually, there's a statue of him, far too small a statue to him, memorial to him. But he has got the... He's got the beefy Victorian tash.
Love it.
So around in the Victorian era, so probably about the first half, the later first half of the 1800s, I think about 1853, we had what was called the Big Stink. By which point...
In London.
Yeah. By which point the capital population had grown exponentially from where it started.
It had outgrown the sewage system.
It had outgrown the sewage system, basically. And so everything used to go into the Thames, and it was the most toxic, dirty, filthy river in the world by that point, because it just couldn't, the sort of natural flow that had lasted for so long.
Well, there were too many people.
Too many people. So finally, once politicians were actually leaving the Houses of Parliament covering their mouths and noses with handkerchiefs because it was so disgusting, bearing in mind the Houses of Parliament are on the River Thames, Joseph Bazalgette was tasked, he's an engineer, with designing a new sewage system. And what he did brilliantly was imagine the possibility. So he did a few things there. He imagined this whole network throughout the whole of London and beyond, imagining sending that effluence right out of London because it was coming into the river. And he then started planning. So this is the second stage. And he used the natural gradients of the hills around London as much as possible to flow so that it didn't need any energy. It was naturally going to flow. And then where that wasn't possible, he built pumps. All this planning, brilliant. And of course, then he had to communicate it. He had to convince people to come with him, which he did. Now, not only that, but if we imagine a sort of modern day version, you get your stats, you get your kind of information.
AI's told you,
do it like this.
This will be the volume.
These are your dimensions, and then, plan it out on them. Then we would have had a certain sewage system. But Joseph Bazalgette, I love that name, because he's a human being and can imagine and think big and think future and potential. He looked at the dimensions of the tunnels that were going to take all of this sewage through and out of London, and they were enormous for the time. I mean, enormous Victorian engineering structures, these tunnels. And what did he do? He doubled them.
Not based on the stats and facts.
No, based on what he imagined could happen. Yeah. And that must have cost a lot of money. I mean, how he must have convinced people, because you could imagine people at the time saying, but hang on a minute, the data's telling us that's going to be enough. But he went, no, we're going to double.
We're going big, Phil.
We're going big.
Go big or go home.
Go big or go home, Joseph Bazalgette said.
That should be on his
little.
Although dealing with sewage, it could have different connotations.
Well, I think that's why it's too small, because it's a topic that we're all about. But actually, if Joseph Bazalgette hadn't gone big, if he hadn't thought big and doubled it, we would have been flooded with toxicity in the 1960s. Toxic sewage in London.
And the cost
there would have been huge. So I just think that is the most wonderful story, that as much as we quite rightly celebrate so many amazing people, we need to celebrate people like Joseph Bazalgette.
Did not get the recognition he deserves.
He really didn't. So it's just a really good example of that expansive thinking and persuading people this is the way to go. Come on, come with me. And he must have had enough of that because we did it. And that must have been a huge investment for the time. Yeah. But boy, can we thank the Victorians for that.
It's funny, isn't it, also how we don't appreciate enough things like this.
I know.
Kind of sit in the background of our lives.
That give our lives such a different quality.
Oh, my goodness.
Exactly.
So we can all do this. We can all be a visionary leader. We can also be more of an operational and kind of implementation leader as well. So some differences to think about in terms of how you approach things, and you can do both. Both are important. We get highly valued for both. So a visionary leader might ask, what could this become? What could be possible in 3-5 years' time? An operational leader is more likely to ask, what do we need to do this week, this quarter? So thinking timeframes. The vision leader thinks in possibilities. If you feel that's challenging for you, get your people on board. As Philippa said, there'll be plenty of people in your organisation that, give them free rein, they'll go nuts. The operational leader will think more in constraints and problems rather than possibilities. Both are useful. I always remember this story about an oil rig safety engineer. And I think I met him actually on one of the courses that we went on, and how he was absolutely primed to spot short-term problems because that's what was needed in terms of the job that he did. So very much thinking about constraints and risks. And that's a slight sort of extreme in terms of role, but you can see how we might be pushed into thinking about constraints and problems.
And we need both.
And so find those people on your team, find the time in the agenda where you can think about possibilities. And if anybody says, well, the problem with that is, well, then you're into constraints. So really, really focus on possibilities. This one I love so much. This has come up time and time again, connecting daily decisions, daily actions, daily achievements with that longer term direction. So this is pushing a bit into communication, but I've definitely spoken to leaders about using the language of the company vision so that people are constantly realizing how connected it is. The operational leader is more likely just to respond to immediate demands. The visionary leader, now this is interesting, will tolerate uncertainty, can live in the grey. It's okay not to know. Is there space for that? I hear a lot, but that feels quite challenging. So, is there space to allow for that?
I want to jump on something you said earlier about being, whether it's a parent or whether it's to, somebody who is, hosting an event or taking care of other people in any way at all. And in this case, if your kid said, yeah, but, what will there be on the menu for lunch? And you don't know. What you don't necessarily say, what you don't always, you might do if you're, just had enough and it's 35 degrees and you've had enough and stop. But you wouldn't necessarily say, well, I don't know. I don't know either. You'd say, oh, well, that, we'll have to see. I do know there are places to eat and we'll make sure that we find somewhere that you really like. So it's, again, you can tolerate uncertainty and you can also communicate in a way that holds it for other people.
Yeah. And if you're more of a sort of operational leader, you're more likely to see uncertainty as a risk and want to contain it. Now, again, very useful. Can you find space for both in your meetings? So this is uncertain. What's the risk of this? This is uncertain. What's the possibility of this? Both are really, really useful.
And that stops polarity thinking. If you can see both sides, that's right.
Exactly. Meaning making. Now, this is a big one. We could do a whole other podcast on meaning making, but a visionary leader is more likely to try and make meaning of something. What have we learned from this? What might this mean? What might be possible from this? Whereas a sort of more operational leader is much more likely to think about the short term, being efficient, making sure that people are sort of managing that daily workload. So meaning making versus that more sort of short-term efficiency and workload. Just notice where you sit. Again, is there space for both? Look up and out. I really like this. So you're really, really good at this, Phil. So really thinking about what you've learned, what you've seen, what you've understood, conversations you've had, what's up and out there. This is why we listen to so many podcasts, because of all the little nuggets and gems that you get that you can integrate.
Joseph Bazalgette pen.
Exactly, Joseph Bazalgette, there he is. So can you look up and out and see what information is out there that might be useful? Of course, the operational leader, and we hear this a lot again in organisations, will be very internally focused. And we hear a lot about how much time people and leaders are spending on internal communication and conversations rather than looking outside and having those conversations. Asking questions that make people think differently. So we love thinking about questioning technique at 4D. We do whole pieces on this where you ask questions that people are unable to give a sort of operational implementation answer to. They're kind of forced into a space of more creative and broader visionary thinking. Be careful about finding answers too quickly because that will push you more into the sort of operational execution problem solving. Again, both really useful. If we're under time pressure, something's at risk or dangerous or whatever it might be, we need to find some answers quickly. And again, just making sure you've got space for both that and asking those bigger questions within your team.
Yeah, very good. And it's already, I sort of touched on this very quickly because I know we've got a lot to get through, but it's already made, I was sitting here as you were saying this thinking, this is something I was thinking about last night. Like, what's a response to this massive change in our work culture? And I started thinking about, what is it that people really love? What is it? What's the essence of what a lot of people really like about work that might be going? And I thought, what is it? It's coming together. It's sharing ideas. It's having a shared kind of outcome or purpose. And it started making me think of theatre and local community theatre and imagining, well, what if we end up on a universal basic income and we have to find that somewhere else.
Find the meaning.
That then there's other projects like community projects or, charity projects or theatre. But that's something that's unique to us to be able to explore and find. The AI is not going to say, well, if, the world of work completely changes, you might want to start a theatre. It's felt. Yes. It's what else is going on here.
Yeah.
So start thinking.
Yeah. My big offer on that would be, for leaders, particularly leaders who are managing teams, just notice in your meetings, your agenda, your diaries, is there space for both the operational leadership and the visionary leadership?
And let's touch on that now, because this is my sort of mini section on the argument to disengage. which is kind of weird coming us from us at 4D, because we are all about engagement. You know, our whole ethos is about how do we communicate well, how do we collaborate well, how do we get people connected and engaged. And we're going to make an argument for intentional disengagement, because your algorithm addiction, let's say, or the way that your algorithm gets you kind of caught in.
Do you mean the algorithm like in our brain?
No, I mean in tech. I mean, like in social media. The scrolling, the algorithm, the tech and social media ecosystem is designed to keep you engaged. But here is the thing, and I just think this is vital information for us all. When we are engaged on social media, there's some research by neuroscientist Marcus Reichel on the default mode network, and it shows that our default mode network isn't engaged when we're scroll through the algorithm, because that gets engaged when we're walking along, daydreaming, having a walk, and that's where ideas come in. When we're hyper engaged online again and again and again, what that is actually tapping into is your fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system. So you are basically when you're scrolling, it's like you are seeing a snake in the grass or a tiger on the landscape again and again and again and again. And guess what? When we're looking at a snake in the grass or a tiger on the landscape, we are absolutely not thinking about, ooh, I wonder what else is possible here.
Yeah, the peripheral vision goes.
It's completely gone. So, and the reason I wanted to take a moment on that is that it's all very well giving kind of ideas about becoming more visionary and spending time doing that. We have to understand how strong the ecosystem pull is the other way, so that we can intentionally, deliberately, and courageously disengage. And this is not a wellness suggestion. So much of
it could also lead
it is also wellness, but so much of what we talk about with social media and the addiction of the algorithms is about our mental health. We're actually making it also a strategic imperative for us as human beings and for you as leaders and employees and co-workers. Your creativity, your visionary skill is being closed down and shut down. All you're doing is seeing a snake in the grass or a tiger on the landscape.
A quick word from us at 4D Human Being. If you're enjoying the show, please do click follow so that you can have the 4D Human Being podcast instantly in your feed. And we'd love it if you liked and reviewed us. Let us know what you think.
Please do think of one or two people that you could share the 4D Human Being podcast with. Somebody who would really benefit from the content you're listening to right now.
Back to the show.
So, to imagine, to vision, you've got to be bored enough to be brilliant.
Well, do you know, Phil, this is why we say at 4D Human Being, internally, we talk about how we use our time. And of course, we're very busy, we're with clients and we're doing lots of coaching and all those wonderful, lovely things. And we do say that reading a book, going for a stroll, watching a documentary, all of these things.
It's the dog walks pen.
Enrich.
Yeah.
They enrich our thinking and our visionary ideas. Not that we have to convince you any further on this, but of course we wouldn't be talking about this if we didn't think it was absolutely essential. And this is both for businesses and for individuals, that all of these 6 skills are incredibly important. And in terms of being visionary, it's just going to be a primary differentiator. And you've only really got to look at the UK government at the moment to really see that in action. So what are some of the reasons behind this? Well, none of this is probably going to be news to you, but let's just summarise some of the reasons why we really do have to think about this as a core critical skill. And we'll come on to how you can up your game in as an upskill. So AI is commoditizing execution implementation. So we talk about both visionary leadership, visionary business, and the execution and implementation skills that we have. Both are important, of course, and humans will still need to do that second piece. And AI can do a lot of that piece. So in terms of the value add that we're bringing into organizations, being visionary is going to be incredibly important. So leaders who can only manage the present might find the value that they bring, the roles that they can do, what they can offer. They might see that getting squeezed a little bit. So really thinking about that visionary skill. The pace of change. I think I said this on the last podcast, but we could think about 5-year strategic plans last time and pretty much know that the market was going to be slightly different, but more or less similar. Of course, that has completely gone out of the window now. So we have to really think about that visionary thinking as expanding more and more and more in terms of what's possible. I mean, I heard Elon Musk speaking the other day, and, whenever one thinks of Elon Musk, when he's talking about the work he's doing in terms of his space projects, he's really talking in terms of
so far ahead.
I mean, sort of astro communities, and whether or not that happens, who knows? But the fact that we're talking like that after, back in 1969 when America sent a man to the moon, and I mean, that was seen as absolutely mind-blowing. And of course, it's accelerating to such a pace. We have to really think much, much bigger in terms of what's possible. And in a way, it doesn't matter if what he's saying comes to fruition or not. It's the fact that he's thinking and speaking like that, or somebody on his team is. So really, really noticing the pace of change and understanding not only does that mean that we have to have much more visionary thinking, much more visionary communication, so that people can feel like they can keep moving forward, because we might get stuck because we're just feeling like, what's it going to be? But it's also just being much more expansive as well in that thinking.
Yeah.
Meaning. Now, you said, Phil, I said this to somebody the other day, that the possibly the next wave in terms of society, if we think about coming through various phases of society, sort of the tech era, we're now in the AI era, meaning making is really likely to be another wave of human development, if you like. So making meaning out of things is becoming incredibly important, and being visionary is incredibly important in that, because otherwise we're stuck in the kind of day-to-day. So,
and that makes me think of something we were talking about earlier or yesterday, which is what degrees are now going to be considered valuable. And interestingly, that kind of, computer science or even maths, I think, maybe. It's gone down. And subjects like philosophy are now coming.
Philosophy, ethics, liberal arts, these are all becoming more valuable.
Which makes a lot of sense, because exactly that. If we think about the rise of tech and AI, if you think about how you're going to balance that has got to be with human meaning. Yeah. So there we are. Yeah. So, in a way, it's very obvious. This is why I mentioned theatre earlier. That, in a way, it's like if we all start eating too much sugar, I mean, look at what's happened now. We all start eating too much sugar. Guess what happens next? Protein starts coming up. Right. And it's the same. Like it's the same with our mental health. We're always looking for stasis. Our bodies, the reason that you reach for a glass of water when you're thirsty isn't because there's some little community in there going, I wonder what we should do now. Maybe we should it's because your body is absolutely programmed to reach stasis. Yeah. So when you're hungry, the signals come up and you just automatically reach for, the apple or the chocolate bar, whatever it might be. But we're always looking for stasis. Yeah.
So it's like a pendulum that keeps swinging.
So meaning, if we lack meaning because we're just day to day, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be meaning. And the final thing to think about in terms of why this is going to be so important is thought leadership. So we are really looking to, and we're going to keep looking to, people that inspire us in terms of their thinking and their future thinking in particular. And you will all, as listeners, you will all know the people that you tend to tune into that kind of inspire you and make you feel like they've got great ideas. And it's incredibly important for us. And whether that's because we listen to TED Talks or there's keynotes or there's articles or whatever it might, podcasts, whatever it might be, we are drawn to people who are those kind of thought leaders. And that's possible for all of us to do at some scale or the other. So organisations will want people who are being seen not just as great leaders in terms of getting their job done, but who are being seen as thought leaders who can really articulate what they see the future becoming.
Yeah, and that's where you get the followership. Yeah. And without that, organisations without that sort of compelling visionary story, they end up not just underperforming, but they just drift. It's just sort of drift and hopeful and reactive. And teams without that shared sense of sort of purpose and vision and kind of goal and direction develop what Patrick Lencioni calls
the 5 dysfunctions of teams.
Yeah. So Patrick Lencioni calls that when we don't have that shared vision, which is one of his key layers in his pyramid model, when we don't have that shared sense of direction and purpose, we get what we call artificial harmony. We're kind of all saying, all right, well, we'll all, we'll all pootle along together, but we're not really connected to it.
These are the conversations by the coffee machine. Oh, you know, Bob said we're going to do that. What an idiot.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I've got to get on with what I've got to do today.
I'm doing this thing. I don't really know why. Yeah. But anyway, great. Yeah, lovely. I've achieved it. It's completed. And then we all celebrate. I don't really know why. Exactly that. And it's also how people then communicate outside of work, if they're connected to that shared purpose. So let's look at how you can actually do this. Now, layer 1, as we said, is imagine, the space to think. You cannot do this on a schedule with back-to-back. I'm not even going to say back-to-back, overlapping.
Yeah, overlapping.
Most of us, they're so back-to-back that we're always running 2, 3, 5 minutes into the next one, aren't we? So it just knocks on. So number 1 tip
Actually, I'm quite impressed these days by people who A, turn up on time, and B, aren't flustered when they turn up. I'm like, you've got your diary sorted.
That's already way above.
Yeah.
So number 1 on the imagine layer or pillar is the weekly vision window. Block 90 minutes a week. I don't think that's a lot to ask. No. I know some people might feel it is, but that doesn't feel like a lot. And you don't have to take that in one hit, because it is amazing if you even give yourself 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's true.
It feels like nothing, but actually if you have space for 10 minutes, it suddenly feels quite a lot.
Well, it's the old tomato test, isn't it? Like the Pomodoro.
The Pomodoro, 25 minutes.
Yeah, if you set yourself 10 minutes with your team, you might be amazed.
Yeah, exactly. So 90 minutes. This is non-negotiable. This is not to be moved. When you block this out, as I have ever done, not for this kind of time, but if I've got something in that I know is negotiable, I'll say, oh, Lisa, you can move this if you like. No. That's a no-no. This is blocked in red, non-negotiable, cannot be changed. This is your vision time. And this goes back to what Penelope and I were saying earlier. We both, nearly all of our clients, because of where they are, this is the piece that gets lost, because a lot of people are demanding their time. There's a lot of things to deliver, check, be all over. This is the tough bit. This is our challenge to you. Block that 90 minutes. Ask yourself these questions. Where is my field going to be in 3 to 5 years' time? What is changing most that people haven't even noticed yet? What would I build if I started from scratch today? I think that is the question for me. When we think about innovation and what you learn along the way, ask that question. If I knew now I know what I know. If I was starting from today, what would I build? And think about that for your department, your region, your organisation. Write whatever comes. Don't edit, don't evaluate, don't judge. Just generate. Just even start writing. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'm giving myself 90 minutes to think differently. What might happen? Just let it go.
Yeah, and don't sit there thinking this is a waste of my time.
Exactly. That's the point of it. It's supposed to be open space. This is the point. Number 2 is your default mode practice, and this is disengage to imagine. Once per day for at least 20 minutes, I would say maybe 10 to start with. Turn your phone off, turn your screen off, no podcast, no content. You can't even read a instruction manual on your desk. Just walk or sit or stare out of the window. Not even a pen in your hand, nothing. This is not rest, this is activation of your default mode network. This is you firing up your imagination system. So again, in a similar way to that kind of 90-minute visioning, it's slightly different because you really are now going for it. Yeah. You're opening up a space and you're not doing anything.
I was going to say, the value that organisations are putting on strategic thinking.
Yeah.
And it is just that. It is thinking. Well, if you don't have time to think, and I can't think strategically.
And I think this is the gnarly, difficult, knotty bit of this, is that what most people want with strategic thinking is a nice
Boston matrix.
Yeah, nice Boston matrix, something nice and tight, something nice and left brain that can give me a plan. That is phase 2.
Yeah.
And it's so often mistaken. Most people want to start this visionary thinking at stage 2, which is the planning.
But if you don't expand it out.
If you don't expand out, you are never going to have Joseph Bazalgette's double size tunnels.
Well, we talk about this in coaching, don't we? That if you narrow the path of thinking and questioning too early, it's like you've shut off a funnel
Yeah.
into a really narrow pipe of possibility in
Absolutely.
terms of where the conversation might go. And the same applies to business.
Shout out to the lovely Dave Wilson, who we've worked with over the years. Shoot for the moon. And if it falls short, that arrow has still gone a hell of a long way.
Yes, 100%. The next one, really practical tool that we use at 4D Human Being, the 4D multi-perspective map. We use this in all sorts of things, right from communication, strategic thinking, leadership, feedback, loads of different things. Imagine a 4-grid matrix with these words in each of the 4 grids. I, you, we, and it. And when you're thinking about vision, the future, can you make notes in each of those quadrants? What do I think? What does it mean for me? How do I feel? What can I do? What about the person or people sitting opposite me?
What
or
would
in my
they love? What
team?
would my customers?
What do they need? And then the we, it's the collective thinking. What might be amazing for all of us? What could we do together? And then the it is really thinking outside the box. The it is the product, the market, the company, whatever it might be, is that third party entity. It sits outside of you. What's being developed in terms of it, the product, or what's happening out there in the market? Can we be expansive in all 4 of those contexts so that we can really think 360 degrees holistically about what's possible in the world and what's possible together? Because if we tend to stick to what I think, what I know, what I can do, we're just going to really limit ourselves. It's a good way to think about it.
Exactly. So immediately, if I think about the it, just as an example, you go, right, well, that's the shape, isn't it? It's the shape of the market or the shape of the business. So we might, a few years ago, have talked about hubs. Could it look like hubs? Could it be a club that people are a part of, being part of your club because of the mission that you're on? Could the it be a partnership? Like suddenly we've got what we thought of as competitors as fully in partnership, and actually you're working for both companies, or you're spending half your time in one, half in another. Now this all sounds like, this is all kind of big thinking. Well, what would that actually look like? That's the point of this exercise and this layer, this pillar, is that you don't have to know that. You just have to imagine how it could be different.
Yeah, and the you is another really good example that we think about a lot, which is we know our stuff. We like to think, and we think we have great product, great workshops, really great online digital platform. And we have to spend time in the you space, which is how are people behaving
and going to behave
in the real world,
Yeah.
and how are they going to behave? And therefore, then how does that fit with what we learn, what we offer?
Absolutely. We've had that conversation already this week about what the next piece we're going to do, what the future needs, what young people need going into the market. So always thinking, what do they need and what have we got to offer that? It's what's it called? The ikigai is what am I good at? What skills have I got? And what does the world need? I mean, really thinking like that. Okay. The final one on imagining is one of my very special favourites, and it's the peripheral vision habit. This was a huge part of my life anyway. It's Steve Jobs, you join the dots backwards, the calligraphy course that led him to, into design and the font for Apple. It was a huge part of my integrative psychotherapy course. Because it was integrative, what was interesting, and it was just said very explicitly to us, is we're not giving you just, but the Gestalt model or the transactional analysis model. With integrative psychotherapy, read widely.
Yeah.
Go and read some philosophy, read some history, some sociology, go and do some arts, because all of that is going to help. And of course it does sports, body work, dance, everything. So the peripheral vision habit is really, as Penelope said earlier, read, listen, follow somebody outside of your area of expertise. I love history. And so many threads, I mean, even Joseph Bazalgette today, so many threads make me think, that's interesting. Politics we think about.
Ties into,
how can I bring that in?
Yeah.
Dance, I cannot tell you how many conversations I have with my dance teacher, Michael, about breaking through to that top level of dance that they did, and how that is there's such a parallel with leaders, because at some point you have to stop doing and you have to let go and you have to relax and you have to hold the partnership in a different way, and that has been, those conversations have been so informative in terms of coaching leadership. So the peripheral vision habit, really look outside your area of expertise. All of these could make you think, why am I doing this? Is this a waste of time?
Yeah.
Has this really got anything to do with...
I've got a business meeting to get
Exactly.
to.
I've got deliverables to do. If you find yourself thinking, am I wasting my time? Good. You are in the visioning, imagining space. Take the risk. Bring in ideas. 4D Human Being, we bring in ideas from business, theatre, psychology, neuroscience, evolutionary biology, the arts, the business, like, all of it. Yeah. It's all coming in to give you, our clients, the very, very best and the most interesting, cutting edge.
It's fascinating.
And it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. So look outside.
Yep.
Layer 2, this is the plan. This is where we get nice and concrete. How can we build it? And the first thing on this is number 5 in the full list. So that periphery vision habit was number 4. Number 5, now in the planning, co-create. So once you've had an idea or thought big, you're not on your own. Don't panic. Bring your people in, bring it to your people, use that perspective map, ask them what they think, ask them what else is possible, ask them great questions, bring in new ideas. If you bring them in this early, not only are you not on your own, you will start to actually build more of a concrete idea because they'll bring in actual tangible ideas that would actually be possible to execute. You are creating ownership. And if you create it this early, because if you've had the idea, then you make the plan and then you go and communicate it all on your own. That is a lot of heavy lifting that communicating has got to do. Yeah. So bring them in. As soon as you've had an idea, I mean, this is what we do all the time at 4D. I mean, Matt and Pen, I'm saying, I've had this thought. And they go, I've been noodling. But it's at that point that always, you will bring something absolutely brilliant that makes me think differently and makes it more concrete.
Yes.
And I hope that's, both ways.
And there's a link to that onto the next point, number 6, which is connect your vision all the time to what you're talking about, the meetings, you're having, the communication that you're doing. And this is for you and also for your people. So if you're not using the language of the visionary priorities of your organisation in your day-to-day, very, very hard for people to remember and work towards that vision. So just using the language. So as an example, it might be something like we've got this sort of issue in the market with our competition, and we might need to think of sort of doing something differently because, or so that, finish your sentence with, because our goal is to be number 1 in the market, or our goal is to
because of course where we're going is
so it's always making sure that there is a so that, or because, when you're talking about those day-to-day initiatives, changes and decisions, so that language becomes embedded in your team.
That's so nice, isn't it? And you could just relate that to everything. I mean, literally everything. We've changed the coffee in the kitchen because we are the company that want everybody to feel like they are having the most luxury time every day, or
connecting, collaborating. Exactly that. And not only will it be really useful in terms of, really bedding that vision in with your team, they understand it, they're following it, they're connecting it to the work that they do, but it will make you look amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. One more piece that's really, really concrete was number 7, which is the backwards diary, which is we've got this vision. Don't just leave it kind of floating there up in the ether as a lovely principle to have. How can you pull that down into the concrete world and well, if that's our vision, what's our backwards diary? And by that we mean, if that's where we want to be in 6 months' time, can I track back
or even 6 years' time?
Can I track back kind of 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 6 months, 4 weeks, what's happening now that's going to start me on that road to get on.
And that is different from, I've got this idea somewhere out there, what can we do today? If you've backtracked, what will have to be true a year before that to give that a chance at being possible? And when you do that, you can literally, sometimes we get like massive like flip chart paper, don't we, on the floor, and get people to write it and walk backwards. So that my action tomorrow is absolutely connected.
I've got to now start talking to Bob in marketing. Otherwise, I'm
not going to be where I need to be 6 months before the final finish line or whatever. Okay, so we're moving into communicating with passion. This is our third pillar. This is so 4D. This is just us all over, isn't it? So number 8. Energy and intention, they are our core tools. If you've listened to any 4D Human Being podcast, you will know this inside out. What energy level? So hi, I really hope you get on board.
Really excited.
I'm really excited. What energy level are you and what's your intention? Word in the head. So I might be a kind of, hopeless too.
Well, they said this.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking very difficult out there. Or I might be a passionate 8. You know what? I can't wait to talk to you about this. I want to paint you a picture of what is possible for all of us. So energy, that's the number 1 to 10, and intention, that's the word you hold in your head. I mean, honestly.
If nothing else.
If nothing else, do that. It's a game changer, isn't it? I mean, it's like going on a date, isn't it? If you're on a date and someone said, well, shall we see each other again?
It's very nice.
It's nice to meet you. Yeah, maybe. I've loved meeting you. Let's do something next week. Okay, and then number 9 is the vision as narrative. And this is our fabulous 4D vision loop. So we have a fabulous tool called the story loop, and we have a version of it that is called the vision loop, which is about visioning the future. Now, to know this more and to get your people trained up on it, do get in touch with us, because it needs a bit of practice and it needs a bit of understanding. But in short, you're basically talking about what's happening now, what's the crisis moment and opportunity. Therefore, what's the plan is your next piece of communication, because this is the vision that I see for all of us. And then, of course, the expectation. What does that mean? The people in front of me will know that they need to do to make that happen. So it's a fabulous structure, creating this wonderful story that you can bring people with you.
If you want to look at a really good example of this, go and look at JFK's moonshot speech when he talked about sending a man or men to the moon. He follows this beautifully in terms of setting that vision, what's possible, why they wanted to do it, and how everybody was going to be involved. It's a brilliant speech. And it really, really speaks beautifully to visionary communication.
Yeah,
and at the time, people didn't believe it.
Yeah,
they were like, that's never going to happen.
And it's
but if you listen to him, he hits all the points of great visionary communication.
Yeah. And it's the I Have a Dream as well. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. That's right. What a good example of it. It sounds at the end of the decade. Yeah. You're like, what?
Really?
And of course,
now we're going to build communities on Mars.
Imagine it, plan it, communicate it. Wow.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
The last one, number 10, is the ABCDE. And this is our very, very popular communication message structure. And the A is grab their attention. B is tell them the benefit of the plan. C is your core message. D is give them a story, a detail, give them some depth, get them excited. And then E is the expectation. And you can use that in every single meeting, any kind of communication. It's a very easy way to structure your communication that takes people with you and tells them what to do at the end of it, which is the bit that's often missing. I'm going to give you a bonus here, which is build your thought leadership platform. If you're not spending any time in the week posting on LinkedIn or any social media, sharing an article that you've read, sharing other people's posts, talking about something you care about, asking a great question about, has anybody else thought about what, I've been thinking that this might be what happens in 5 years' time. Is anybody else thinking about this? Or I've just come out of a strategy meeting and this has come up. I'm super excited about and I'm passionate about. Get that stuff out there. Yeah. Let people know that you're thinking like this. It's your value now.
I'd really give you a small tip on this, which I love seeing people in my network posting about conversations they're having, meetings they're having, places that they've been, new initiatives in the organisation. Very often we see posts of when people have been together. It has been great to catch up with XYZ. Great. And there is an opportunity in every one of those posts to do the so that or the this means or what this might mean. It's making sure that at the end we're pushing into the future and you will be seen much more as a thought leader.
Yes, not just I went to this conference and
great to see Bob.
Great to see Bob and he spoke really well. What I'm so excited about is what this means for our industry. I can see blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I hope everyone's excited. Have you thought about, check this out. Yeah. Oh, that energy around
Push it into the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a lot of tips there for you. Remember, do one thing to take that space. Number 1, that first layer, to take that space to imagine. Number 2, start planning. Bring people in and start making those steps. Backward diary. And pillar 3 is communicate it with passion and energy. And if you want more on all of those, particularly that last one, boy, can we at 4D help you. And equally, you can jump onto our 4D On Demand platform and we have our storytelling series on there with all of those tools, with the Story Vision tool. So that is the end of our 6 skills
Can't
for
believe it,
2026.
Phil. 6 weeks have flown by.
I know, and we are halfway through 2026 with your 6 skills. So a reminder of what they were: accountability, creativity, curiosity, adaptability, relatability, and the visionary. Woo!
Enjoy those 6 episodes. If you haven't heard them all, go back and have a listen. We'll be coming up with some fabulous topics over the summer before we come to our back to school series. More of that in the future. We have really enjoyed these 6 skills. It was quite hard to hone it down to 6 skills. I think we hit a really good 6. Cannot overemphasize the importance of these skills in the workplace, and that is for senior executives right down to early in careers. These are the skills that you are going to need.
Absolutely. So if you've enjoyed this, do share it with colleagues, friends, family. Give them the gift of 4D. Why not? We've loved doing it. It's lovely that you're listening. Take very good care. Stay cool.
I'm going to take my Miami Vice jacket off.
Yeah, well, you know, you're done.
Woo!
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the 4D Human Being podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Do take on board some of the insights, tools and tips, because every time that you try something new to get back to choice, you are making a vote for the you that you want to become. And I love that phrase, Pen.
I do too. And please do share this episode with somebody that you know would really benefit from the lessons and learnings we've been chatting about today.
And of course, if you're interested in more from 4D Human Being, do get in touch. We run workshops, trainings, online, in person, conference events and keynotes. We've got the 4D On Demand platform for your whole organisation. And we do have a free Essentials membership where anybody can sign up for absolutely free to access some of our insights, tools and tips. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to hear more. We cannot wait to hear from you and to carry on the conversation.